all things considered, I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of like my mindset today, going into today, and kind of like the goals that I've been setting with this whole content thing in particular, and how to kind of like rate whether or not what you're doing is successful. It's hard because like when there's an external validation metric of numbers, there's a very clear sign as to whether or not you're achieving the numbers that you hope to hit. But I think that in particular, content creation is weird because the numbers that you're trying to hit can always happen in the future. They can always be a little bit further, or like, oh, maybe it's this video that'll go viral, or maybe it's this video that'll go viral. And yeah, and I think that I've having uploaded videos now for the past 2 weeks, a little bit more and some change, up to about a month. I started streaming about a month ago, and then have started uploading videos consistently about now for 2 or 3 weeks, which isn't a long enough time to form any statistical rigor about whether something is working or not. But I do empathize with the kind of feelings that creators have about watching the numbers not match up with their expectations, and how that can have an effect on creators' emotional psyche and can cause a lot of psychic damage. And I think creators do take the time to talk about these things, but a lot of it kind of feels very backdrop against the realities of these numbers. It feels kind of high school-esque in the sense that it's a kind of a popularity contest for all of these videos. And I think that realistically, creating something that you're proud of doesn't necessarily equate to something that somebody else is proud of. And learning the distinction between the two, and learning when enough is enough, and learning when to stop or when to double down, I think is an important life skill that isn't taught nearly enough in schools. And I don't know, I guess that like, if I had some goals for this channel, I think I've been pretty clear that I don't really see myself as like a traditional content creator, in the sense that I'm going for massive viewership like the Mr. Beasts of the world. I think that there's a lot of things that, at least I'm saying now, that I don't think that I would do. But again, now I'm empathizing more with streamers who make decisions to do things that are a little bit more extreme to attract attention, because by nature of putting a camera in front of your face, you're attracting attention to yourself. And then there's the whole thing about a creator's authenticity and what they're when they're selling out. But in a lot of ways, I think the whole process from day one of just turning on your camera involves both being authentic and selling out. There's never a moment at which I think an artist or an individual creator fully sells out, and there's never a moment where they're not at least partially inauthentic or authentic. So yeah, I don't know. I think that I definitely am going to keep streaming. I'm definitely going to keep this process up because I'm actually having a really good time. But I was just kind of in a bad mood today after uploading my videos, I kind of feel guilty in a sense. I don't know. It's like you want to put in all of these hours into this work, and then if no one sees it, then you're like, well, what the fuck was that for? But then the opposite is also true, where you're ashamed of putting something out that you did for free on a platform where people are uploading hot garbage and amazing one-off things that you can't find anywhere else on the internet. And you're just supposed to feel, I don't know, good about your videos. I think that there's definitely something involved with the quantity of videos being produced too, and finding the quality of that. And I don't even mean just videos in the concept of video production, but really understanding the person in front of and behind the camera, as it were, and developing a public speaking image, a persona, a character, something that your ego can hide behind in the YouTube analytics game, which is just a nightmare because they just put all this information, they shove it in your face, and they're just like, same with Twitch, same with every social media site that allows you to kind of monetize your content. But I don't think analytics is healthy for creators. I'm pretty sure most creators would agree. At the end of the day, analytics is complicated because not only does it show, it's weird, right? Because like I own my own website at bramadams.dev, and I felt a lot less creative barrier in uploading things to that website than I do when I upload things to YouTube or Twitch. And I think the reasoning behind that is that I feel a lot more vulnerable and a lot less in control on the platforms of Twitch and YouTube. And if I had to put words to it, it would feel like I'm at the mercy of these algorithms that work kind of for everybody and against everybody at the same time. It's kind of a mercenary algorithm that will favor people, it'll disfavor people, whatever. I don't think I have enough data to do a full video retrospective on my main channel yet about this stuff. This video itself will probably go up on the Clips channel. But it's just kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting to feel a little bit crushed by numbers. I don't think that people have ever had such a short feedback loop of visceral, emotional highs and lows since the slot machine was invented. YouTube analytics is basically a slot machine. And the thing is, the payout isn't really even something that, like, monetarily, isn't something that you would even really see from your analytics at the end of the day. That's the crazy part to me, is that the sponsors that you work with are most likely going to want to see. I've never worked with a sponsor, so I'm only speaking out my ass on this one. I'll be fully transparent. Would want to see results in terms of people signing up for their product, right? Like that's a reasonable assumption to be making. And they would only really have that assurance if they knew that your videos get a consistent amount of views over, let's say, 90 days or whatever. Let's say a big enough period of time where viewers who are within their audience, their particular audience, would come across your video and potentially purchase the item that you've recommended. When it comes to YouTube ad revenue, you don't even need to look at your analytics at all, right? Like in theory, once you pass the monetization threshold, you can just turn off like that website. You just never would have to look at it. Your ad money will come into your bank account as long as you have it directly routing into your bank account. So I don't know. I just think it's kind of interesting dealing so closely with analytics that are meant for creators who operate non-emotionally about their business in the perspective of a creator who has a deeper relationship to the number zero, whether that's zero like Twitch chatters or zero viewers or zero views on a YouTube video. That number zero stings a lot more. And it really rubs salt in the wound from the analytics page, just kind of like being like, sucks to be you. I don't know, you know, right? Like, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't definitely feel good at all. And I've implemented some stopgaps using using apps like Freedom and stuff like that to just go ahead and block analytics. And I think that one thing that am planning on setting up is like blocking all of my analytics except one day a month. And it's just going to be constantly running, and it's going to be a blocker that in the shitty part about Freedom is that it blocks the entirety of YouTube. I'm trying to figure out how to just do YouTube Studio. And if not, I'll build my own Chrome extension to stop myself from going to that particular website, or find another way to go to that, block just that particular domain. Because yeah, it's just like, it's kind of decimating, and it really kind of takes away from the accomplished feeling of posting something in the first place and sharing something that you think is cool with other people. Because it really just gets battened down and kind of just manipulated and turned into this, like, here's your CTR, here's your watch time, here's your numbers. And I'm sure creators further along in their creator journey would have their own opinion that may be different from mine, but I wanted to air out my opinion at this stage too, because, well, for a few reasons. For one, I've been able to, you know, work in a field, software engineering, where opportunities are relatively ample. And I think that it depends on if you're in the startup space or like the larger company space, because like in the startup space, you don't know if you're going to work at a company for a week or 4 years and it's going to go huge, or you don't, you know, at a big company, you can kind of just coast depending on the type of company that you're working at. So it's not necessarily like money is the only prerogative. I've always been interested in money as a vehicle, but I've also been more interested in just entrepreneurship and self-ownership, self-autonomy, doing things that you think are cool and finding enough ways to acquire enough resources to make the thing that you think is cool a reality. And it's like kind of, again, just like this weird punishment from giant websites that make you want to not do make you think that the thing that you think is cool isn't cool. Yeah, that's it. They tell you to change the way you talk. They tell you to post at a certain frequency. They tell you to make your videos a certain length. They tell you to become a person that you aren't, so they'll share it. Right? Like their half of the bargain in this platform model is to be a platform that shares with other people. But they don't really hold up on their edge of the bargain, or their end of the bargain, unless you conform to exactly the way that you want to post, or they want you to post. They want you to create on their platform. And the thing is, there is no really better alternative. Like I said, I feel an immense amount of creative freedom on my own website, but I lack the tools and resources to find the potential audience members to grow both a community around the stuff that I care about, but also a sustainable business. And I think that, with the tools I built, Stenography being the prime example, I think that it's a great tool. You know what I mean? I still use it daily, and like people who use it really like it. And some people pay for it. And I think a big part of why I wanted to get into the streaming space was to kind of like, really kind of deep dive my hobbies of using PKM in action and doing some coding on live stream, with my own take on it. There's been other people who code on live stream. There's been other people who've, actually not many people. I think I might be the first person to Obsidian stream. That's not true. There's definitely there are like a few people who I've seen on YouTube who've done Obsidian streams, but generally the kind of note-taking PKM space has been, people taking like Obsidian as the first class part of the video, whereas I'm more interested in using it as a backdrop to show that you can do anything with it, right? Not just showing off its features. But yeah, so I think that the mindset that I had, I was sitting on my bed after my nap, and I kind of woke up. I don't like to take naps because I wake up in a bad mood. I wake up grumpy. I get grumpy after my nap. And I woke up and I was kind of just like lying in bed, like scrolling through YouTube, and it's like, the TikTok, YouTube doom scroll, Twitter thing that everybody is hyper familiar with. And it's Friday, and I don't know, I haven't really been going out lately. I haven't really felt the desire to be going out. I'm really excited about this stream thing, but then I felt super disappointed because I don't have any chatters, or I felt really disappointed because my YouTube videos are down compared to, even when I was uploading GPT-3 stuff 2 years ago. And I'm like, oh, well, I must be a failure, and I'm like lying in bed and I'm mad and I don't want to stream. And, and I was like, oh, well, I did say that I was going to do this One Dude's Hobby is 8 billion People's Treasure video, and kind of get excited about that, as kind of like, closing this book. But yeah, I don't know. I just felt also like, how else was I going to use my time? Right? Like if I could go to bed early tonight, I could, but it was too early at the time. It was 9 o'clock, which is fine if you go to bed normally at 10:30, but I'm a type of person who goes to bed at like 1. So going to bed at 9 would have really screwed up my sleep schedule for the next couple of days. It's way too much of a gap. So my other option was to just kind of chill, is to watch stuff, read stuff. And yeah, I don't know. I want to make this streaming thing work. I was like, I might spend all of my weekend days at like cafes, just kind of hanging out and video editing and thinking and typing. So I might as well go live while I'm at home, when I have all my gear set up, like my light and my camera and my microphone. But then I felt that that pushback, I felt the pushback of loneliness, of a chat of 0 people after watching your favorite streamers have, 7,000 people in their chat. And you're like, oh, well, I must be a piece of shit. Like, I must not be interesting. Which could be true. I don't know. I think that there is a real possibility that I'm just less interesting to watch as a creator than some of my other favorite creators. And I think that that's a skill, though. That can't be intrinsic, I don't think. The only way I think that could be intrinsic is the actual activity of the audience that goes to the website in the first place, because both Twitch and YouTube are relatively self-selecting. I'm in the software and game development category, which tops out, like, is, at least when I've seen it anecdotally, at like 2,000 people, 3,000 people. And that's when like the big names like Primogen comes on to record stuff. And is software the right space? Like maybe I should be in just chatting. Maybe I should just be in creative or art. But Obsidian felt closest to software development. Even though what I've been doing is mainly writing, I've been writing in Markdown, which is a relatively technical thing. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll be writing in the tech thing or the software category. But I get like, you know, I've had 3 unique chatters since I've started streaming. So yeah, I don't know. I think that what did we learn from this moment, other than just kind of again being upset at the the fact that you have to build up not only mental walls against yourself and against your criticism when you're an artist in the modern era, but you also need to build up thick skin against the platforms that you post on, because they'll just continue to beat you up. So we learned that. We talked about that. We talked about how these platforms really could give less of a shit about you. And I think that actually, not to belabor the point, but I actually think that that in itself is actually one of the worst sins of these platforms, is that they will pretend to care about creators. But then also very much behind the creator's back, just do whatever the fuck they think is correct. And it's crazy to me that they won't own up to the fact that they know that they are just doing that. Right? Like, it's not like it. If it was truly about a partnership, people who would be streaming on Twitch and on YouTube wouldn't be, you know, 1099 contractors. They get health insurance, they get treated well. And it's just other gig. We live in a gig economy world, right? And people who work on these apps are treated as subcontractors. Basically, they're treated as people whose motives don't align with the company, and the company could toss you aside at any moment, and you mean nothing to the company. Only as long as you are in the company's good graces will the company afford you any pleasure. And that to me is just a wild fucking thing. You know, it's just wild that they will say in all of their public facing things, and maybe again at the initial point of having a video hosting site isn't and a streaming hosting site is beneficial to the world. There are a lot of people who didn't have access and opportunity to find a platform in which they could share themselves with the internet until things like YouTube and Twitch came around. But after YouTube and Twitch did come around, people were now in a position where they were forced to play, like after YouTube and Twitch grew to a certain scale, that creators were no longer kind of like co-creating with their platform. They were creating on their platform, and then the platform would decide if their creations were worth it. And to me, that's just like, while still saying that they care about the creator. So I don't know. I really, really hope that the competitive landscape of creation turns its head against the platforms themselves as opposed to the creators. I think that the Web3 business model is super shitty and kind of bunk, but the emotion behind it is very visceral and very real. The idea of kind of regaining pride from these platforms that go out of their way to humiliate you, and not in a way that's almost obvious. Like when you get bullied in middle school, you're like, oh, well, this guy's a jerk. Like, it's very obvious that he's bullying me. They will bully you, and then they'll wrap it in this vapid marketing speak. And they'll be like, oh, hey, yeah, so we are demonetizing you and giving you a strike, and we showed this video to no one, but hey, you're great. Look at this one. It got confetti, 1 out of 10. And that's crazy. You You know, it really is like a bastardization of the slow and steady kind of creative art process that I think a lot of artists want to be remembered for after they die. Um, and I don't know. It's weird. It's weird to say, but I think that like things are better than they ever have been for individual creators, but they're not good. And what I mean by that is that like if you were in the era of Van Gogh, you know, Van Gogh was miserable, but he had his own psychological problems. Um, but he did create what he wanted to create. You know, he painted what he wanted to paint. He never found the financial or critical acclaim for his art until after his passing. But I think that with the creator economy, the way that it's set up, you you people rise like stars, but they burn out a lot quicker, and they never actually feel like they've built something that lasts, because it's really hard to build something that lasts when everything is being so heavily scrutinized by an algorithm that's just trying to make itself more money. If your concept of creating something that will outlive you is to make the most beautiful thing that you as an individual think that you can create, and then to be told that that thing isn't shareable or popular or whatever, what have you, it really sucks. It really hurts, you know? And it's not like it wasn't always out of your control, but at least when it was out of your control before, it was obvious. Whereas in this era, they shove numbers in your face and they're like, look, you're growing. Look, you're doing good. Look, you're getting there, kid. Congratulations. Um, but when you really stop to think about where you're going and what it means for your sanity, it's just not entirely clear. So anyway, I think going forward, I'm gonna be a lot more Cal Newport-ian, even more than I already am, about this stream. I'm thinking of it as now and video process, being as helpful as I can as possible while staying true to my philosophy and my art, and then just deep working the shit out of it. Basically, just really kind of understanding that, you know, Cal made a really good point in one of his recent episodes where he's like, video is very important for the future of whatever this shareable economy is. It's more important than audio, the same way that radio got killed by the video or TV. And totally. Like, I don't know, it's like when I turned on this camera for the first time and I saw myself in, you know, 4K or whatever, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing, you know? And, you know, finally got the audio noise suppression working on my microphone, and got a MacBook that, you know, does better in terms of like maintaining internet connection and stuff like that to stream. I was like, oh my God, this rocks, you know? Like, this is such a cool way to share, you know, when people do come into the chat, even just to drop in and say hi. It's a really great way to just kind of like, I don't know, chill, and meet new people that you wouldn't have been able to meet before. But, you know, do not be, the important part is not to be fooled by all of these shiny little baubles. The important part is to remember what you're setting out to do and what message you're trying to tell. And the message that I'm trying to tell is twofold, threefold, fourfold. I'll just go through the folds and then we can count them at the end. Fold number one, I am extremely passionate about personal knowledge management and second brains. And I think that the creators of Obsidian have done a phenomenal job in creating a software that allows people's second brains to flourish and be kind of personal gardened. And I want to deeply explore that. Fold number 2, I loved and love the streamer business model. The fractionalization of creating content on the internet, and kind of just like making a bunch of things and then just kind of like shooting it fire hose, to me is super cool. And watching the fact that you can watch it years later, you know, like maybe I'll watch this video, maybe hello me, you know, in the future, maybe I'm watching this at, you know, age 38 or whatever. It's been like a decade and I'll have like a completely different perspective or whatever. I just like that it's like kind of a video journal. It lives forever. It captures who you are in this moment in time, which is a weakness too. Again, I think that because of, unless it's particularly unique, moments in time really aren't that valuable, right? It's the things that are evergreen or the things that we read. We read Aristotle, we read, you know, Newton, the Principia Mathematica. We don't, the Bible, like the books that people are interested in have a timeless air to them, and they've been passed down through generations for their, usually their value is kind of life experience stuff that people can experience through multiple generations and be like, wow, this person is really reaching out to me through time. So I don't know if this stuff that I'm making will be valuable to other people hundreds of years from now. There's a chance that it will be. There's a chance that a bigger chance that it won't be. But that is, I don't want to close that door. And I think that with the technology that we have and the way that it is, closing that door doesn't make sense. So if I'm going to use my time to just scroll YouTube and scroll TikTok and open my Kindle every once in a while and read some books, I may as well contribute. I may as well be a part of the production pipeline. Even though with all the aforementioned shit about how I said about how it's basically out to destroy the creators that it so serves, right? Fold 3, I think that, like I said, as a marketing arm for Stenography, you know, I don't really talk about it much. I haven't talked about it much on stream, but I went through a pretty major anxiety attack after Stenography went #1 on Product Hunt. And where I was at this time, I had a co-founder leave the project. I had turned down the money that we raised for seed funding. And I had felt that after I finished the autopilot functionality of Stenography, a big gap in what I thought I was and what I had created. And that sent me into a spiral a little bit, because the best move for Stenography at that point in January of this year, of 2022, was to focus very heavily on marketing and scaling. But I don't really like traditional marketing and scaling. I don't really like advertising. I don't really like kind of like going out and doing the work that's some marketing. I like coding. I like problem solving. I like, you know, just thinking about a problem and vibing. And there was really not a lot of that in the marketing promise for what I had to do for Stenography. So I kind of just panicked. I kind of just dropped the project. I was like, I don't know. Here it is. It's live and people are using it, like I said, to this day. And I have paid customers to this day. But I used to take a bunch of calls. Like I was doing weekly calls with people about Stenography. I was posting on LinkedIn and Twitter all the time. And friends would DM me and they're like, oh my God, dude, how's this Stenography going? It looks super cool. Like, this is great that you're putting in the effort to do things like this. And then again, I just like totally had a seismic break from it, where I was like, I have no more. Thank you, dude. SJF dog, thank you. I'm ranting. You did catch me very much in the middle of a rant, and I appreciate you saying that. That means a lot, really, genuinely, and it means even more coming from a real human. Because, you know, as this rant has mainly been focused on, it's just kind of like when we are dealing with computers, not being able to relate to other humans, I think is maybe one of the core reasons that this game feels so, I don't know, goofy, feels so kind of icky at times. But thank you for stopping by. Good night. Have a lovely night in bed. Thank you for listening to me rant. I'm probably going to continue my rant. Yeah, and I don't know. I think that when I left off with stenography, I just kind of felt like, kind of the whole what's next thing really kind of like sat in my stomach, and it kind of like created a pit that kept growing. And I wanted a way to solve that, but I also wanted to be true to my authentic self. And I knew that I like I said, I like creating content. It's like a fun thing for me. I like posting stuff on the internet that's silly. I like making silly code, silly writing, and silly videos. But I was like, oh, maybe I can use this as a marketing arm for stenography. And that still is the plan. So yeah. I've now been live for 40 minutes and I haven't actually gone through the stuff that I planned on doing today. So I'm going to do that now, and it's going to be fun. And then I'm going to go to bed probably. Again, this rant 45 minutes in, I'm saying live on camera while it's being recorded, was partially just because I was grumpy. I woke up from a nap, and when I'm wake up from a nap, I get grumpy. And when I get grumpy, I get pensive. And when I get pensive, I get thinking. And when I get thinking, I get saying. So all of those things led to this 45-minute rant from an insane man, an insane Bram. But we're going to light the air, and I'm going to switch to Obsidian, and we're going to have fun. And then I'm going to go, and we're all going to enjoy our weekends. Hurrah.